Welcome back, citizens! Recently, you learned a great deal about presidential elections and were introduced to the Electoral College system. You may remember that the current Electoral College process is a complicated system that was put into place with the 12th Amendment in the early 1800s, changing the original election procedure. Article 2 of the Constitution originally included a similar structure, but resulted in an elected president usually being paired with a VP with different political beliefs, such as John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. Our founding fathers recognized early that it needed to be changed. The result is a system that has been used in every presidential election for more than 200 years, but has, at times, fallen under criticism. Even today, many American citizens don't fully understand how the Electoral College works. Let's work today to make sure that you aren't in that category. Our objectives today are to describe the Electoral College system used to elect the President of the United States. We will also explain criticisms of the Electoral College system to address misconceptions and better understand how it works. Let's go! Article 2 of the Constitution requires each state legislature to determine how electors for the state are to be chosen. The Constitution disqualifies any person holding federal office, either elected or appointed, from being an elector. No members of Congress or federal judges allowed. Otherwise, each state and Washington, D.C. selects electors following laws, requirements, and guidelines set forth by their legislatures. Since 1864, electors in every state have been chosen by citizens based on popular vote, also held on Election Day. A fact not known by many citizens is this. Each political party selects electors as voting delegates in case their candidate wins the election. That means there is a Republican slate of electors, a Democratic slate of electors, and so on. The practice of permitting recognized political parties to choose a group of prospective electors developed years ago. Now, the President VP ticket from each party has potential electors. On Election Day, voters select the presidential ticket of their choice. In reality, they are voting for the electors who will cast a ballot for that candidate, not the candidate themselves. This means citizens indirectly elect the president. We vote, but it's not the final vote. The number of electors each state has is equal to their congressional representation. In other words, if a state has 2 senators, and all do, plus 1 representative, it will get 3 electoral votes. Most states have more than 2 representatives, so they'll get more votes. And remember, this is all determined by the state population. Altogether, the 50 states have 100 U.S. senators and 435 U.S. representatives, plus Washington, D.C. currently receives 3, making a total of 538 total electoral votes. The 4 states with the most electoral votes are California, Texas, Florida, and New York, while Washington, D.C. and 6 other states have the minimum of 3. An absolute majority, more than half, of the 538 electoral votes is needed to win the presidential election. This means that 270 electoral votes are required to declare a winner.
And the winner is...
So, what happens if no candidate receives 270 votes? The 12th Amendment mandates that the presidency would be decided by the U.S. House of Representatives, something that's actually happened twice, in 1824 and 1888. It's important to know that in that instance, each state is given only 1 vote, no matter how many representatives it has. The winner will be the candidate who wins at least 26 states. If no one wins a majority, the House deliberates and repeats the vote until a president is chosen. States can divide their electoral votes, but most of them choose not to do so. In fact, in 48 of the 50 states, state law mandates that the winner of the statewide popular vote shall receive all of that state's electors. This means that if a candidate wins a state, even by a narrow margin, that person receives all of the state's electoral votes. An example is the biggest electoral prize, California, which has 54 votes. Whichever candidate receives the most votes from California in the general election will receive all 54 electoral votes.
Thanks.
If a candidate wins the state, their whole slate of electors is chosen, so they are almost guaranteed to receive all of the votes in that state. Only Maine and Nebraska separate their electoral delegates according to vote share. The electors representing the political party of the winning candidate in each state meet in their respective state capitals in December, about 6 weeks after the general election, to cast their votes. To be clear, the Electoral College never meets as one body. After voting, each state sends to Congress a certified record of their electoral votes called the Certificate of Vote. The results are counted during a joint session of Congress, where they are tabulated in the first week of January. Presiding over the meeting is the Vice President, who serves as the President of the Senate. Remember, electors are nominated to represent a political party, voted in by members of that party, and have pledged to vote for their party's candidate. Few would even consider voting for another party's candidate.
Nope.
Another safeguard is that 2/3 of the states have laws against faithless electors, those who will not commit to the winning party. Each citizen's vote counts, but the November general election only indirectly allows citizens to elect the president. Its true purpose is to choose electors pledged to elect the president and vice president based on how the citizens of each state voted. First, about 10% of presidential elections under the current system have not elected the winners of the nationwide popular vote, including twice this century. Also, except in closely fought swing states, those with close races, the candidates don't always devote a great amount of time campaigning in some places. In truth, the Electoral College decreases the advantage a political party might gain for encouraging voter turnout, except in those swing states. So instead of spending equally on states and voters across the nation, candidates focus their campaigns on swing states, meaning they often ignore states they don't believe they can win. Another criticism is that due to the distribution of electors, citizens in states with smaller populations have proportionally more voting power than those in larger states. All of this creates a winner-takes-all mentality, especially in the largest states, that does not always align with the principle of one person, one vote. The appropriateness and fairness of the Electoral College system continues to be a matter of ongoing national debate, especially in presidential election years. Supporters argue that it requires candidates to have widespread appeal across the country in order to win. Critics argue that it is not always representative of the popular will of the nation's citizens. Still, it is part of the Constitution and would require an amendment to change any part of the process. And surely you remember how difficult it is to pass one of those. So, the Electoral College is probably here to stay. Remain informed of the process and candidates for government offices at all levels, young citizens. Vote, debate, and participate, and remember to always be clever.
Hey, hey.